Hope you're doing better than this fella this morning. This is just fake, so don't be alarmed. We're going to do a little basic immune system stuff here, and then we're going to get a little more specific in video number 2, including a little coronavirus talk. So here we go. So this has a lot. All these slides are pretty busy, all right? So first of all, vocab stuff. Pathogen is a thing that generates disease. Path is the disease prefix. So this can be anything from viruses to bacteria. Those are the two most common, to other kinds of protists and all kinds of different things. But here we humans have taken a very complex evolved system and tried to categorize things in in hopes to better communicate and understand. So here we have some test stuff. Non-specific compared to specific. There is some overlap between these two systems, so to speak, but basically the words describe exactly what they mean. Non-specific defenses, it doesn't matter what the bad guy is, the response is the same, right? But a specific defense response is only against a specific bad guy like this coronavirus or measles virus or whatever. Okay, so we'll come to the specific ones later. We also talk about kind of first line, second line, third line, kind of, because all these things are more or less happening at the same time. But you can make a good case for this to be the first line of defense, because for most bad guys, if it can't get through your skin, then it's not going to do you any harm. And so that's like a wall in your house. That's like the first line of defense of your house, right? That skin includes the skin inside the tubes, like inside your mouth, right? That's really just the same as outside. It's just kind of turned in. And so those membranes that produce the stuff we call mucus, right? That's your digestive system, your respiratory system. All of those are also kind of barriers for things to get actually inside you. They also have lots of different chemicals that they secrete, like saliva and mucus and things, that we'll talk about a few of those chemicals. Okay, so the second line of defense, but notice still non-specific, right, includes now some cells. White blood cells, sorry, turn this thing off. White blood cells come in a bunch of different varieties. There's only one kind of red blood cell, and they don't play any role in this. White blood cells come in a bunch of different varieties. All of them eat by phagocytosis, and they eat the bad guys. In fact, that's the way that bad guys get killed, is that white blood cells eat them. However, the bad guys can usually reproduce faster than they can be eaten by the white blood cells, so lots of other systems have evolved to slow them down. Okay? Then we have some molecules. Almost all these are proteins. We need to keep straight what are molecules and what are cells here. Okay? And then we have a response that involves lots of proteins and chemicals called the inflammatory response. Again, all of this stuff protects us no matter what the bad guy is. That's why it's called nonspecific. Okay, so for us, here's one of those phagocytes. You can see they're very big globby cells, and all these little things out here that it's eating, these are bacteria, and they could be, again, viruses and other kinds of things. So now, real fast, you have a system of tubes that go through you that doesn't get much press. That's your lymphatic system. And pretty much wherever there's veins and arteries, there's also these vessels. And what travels through these vessels is not red blood cells, but a lot of white blood cells. White blood cells also travel through your circulatory system. So here you have a little diagram that shows your blood vessels and your lymph vessels are all intertwined all throughout your body. And in some places, those lymph vessels kind of enlarge and produce with a bunch of little partitions a place where if you're a bad guy and you come in here, you bounce around a while and you're very likely to bump into a white blood cell that can do something about you. If not eat you, do the other things that we're getting ready to talk about. in a lot of infections, these things become so filled up with white blood cells and things that they get swollen up under your neck here, in your groin area, sometimes around your armpits, and you can feel them, they hurt a little bit. Okay, so here now we are again in the non-specific part. No matter what kind of damage is done, no matter what kind of bad guys might be involved, one thing your body does is a response called the inflammatory response, because it doesn't involve flames, but it involves a little temperature. It usually involves a little redness, and so somebody decided that's a good name for this response. Here's 3 chemicals that are involved, and so we'll come back and talk about those, but let's pretend this is a mosquito. All right, it's a good little example of something we're all familiar with. A mosquito bites you. Well, he punctures your skin. He's broken through that first line of defense, and he's brought some bad guys in with it, right? This pathogen could be bacteria cells, again, it could be virus. And the damage that this does, just by itself, is going to start to release a bunch of chemical signals. These cells all have evolved to release signals that say, hey, something's going on here, I need help. Well, one of those signals is histamines, which cause, you notice this blood vessel just got bigger. Dilated is the word for that. It's stretched out its walls so that things can get out more easily, not red blood cells. These arrows are very confusing, right? But white blood cells, which are much squishier than red blood cells, can now force themselves through, along with a whole bunch of fluid and a bunch of other chemicals. And this fluid is what makes that mosquito bite bump, right? It's just a little tiny swelling in that one place. So these white blood cells, again, are of several different types, but they all do that phagocytosis thing, and you see them here gobbling up the bad guys. Well, the bad guys are also reproducing. And if they reproduce fast enough, these guys can't gobble them up fast enough. Sorry, back to this. Interferons are chemicals produced by virus-infected cells. As their name suggests, they interfere with viruses infecting more cells. So they're specific to viruses, but they're still not incredibly specific. They will help against many viruses, and so we still put them in the non-specific defense system. And then as their name suggests, you know what a pyro means. Pyrogens are the ones that trigger a little temperature increase, which helps these white blood cells fight the bad guys.